Word, the word, switch the bracelet on the word, the word, the word, the word, switch the bracelet on the word, the word, the word, the word, switch the bracelet on the word, the word.
Welcome back to the Word on Blake 7 podcast with me, Steve Wraith. Delighted to say I'm joined by Lynn, Dave and Neil. Nick has sent a video and his apologies for this week's episode where we are reviewing Series A, Episode 6, Seek, Locate, Destroy. And as always, I will give an episode review from the original Bible, although we are all big Cult Edge fans on here. Blake 7's program guide, which is the original copy that I've got. So I'll give you a read of a summary of the episode. Blake decides to launch a raid which will enable him to steal a message decoder from a top security installation on Kentaro. The plan involves blowing up part of the installation so that the Federation will not realize immediately that the particular device has been stolen and thus will not be tempted to change their coding system. All of the crew except Jenna teleport down, set the charges, and remove the coding device. However, Callie, who is holding a group of prisoners whilst the others continue with their work, is attacked. And when she shakes her eyes up the prisoners for a moment, she loses her teleportation bracelet in the ensuing scuffle and is still searching for it when the explosions go off. The rest of the crew do not realize that she is missing for some time, and by then the Liberator, in many spatials distance and being pursued by missiles, launched from Kentaro. Meanwhile, on the station, which serves as Space Command headquarters, Supreme Commander Servalan is being questioned by two representatives of the President. They express the President's dismay that Blake is not only still alive, but is becoming a hero of malcontents and opponents to the Federation. Despite major opposition from these two envoys, she appoints Space Commander Travis to lead the hunt for Blake. Back on Kentaro, Callie survives the explosions and is taken prisoner. Travis realizes the explosions were merely to mislead him and recognizes that the decoding device has been stolen. He persuades Servalan not to change the codes immediately, but to take advantage of the position to broadcast a message which Blake is bound to pick up and respond to. The message chosen states that Callie has been found alive. Blake immediately takes the ship back to Kentaro and, despite his knowledge that there will be large numbers of forces out to stop him, produces a plan which involves taking the Liberator into very close range, teleporting him to the interrogation room where Callie is being held, and releasing her. He does this to avoid Travis's knowing exactly when the ship is going to teleport him down. He succeeds in releasing Callie, and they teleport back to the ship. Travis vows vengeance and the ship's crew by meteoroids. He commences the long chase, which is only concluded at the outbreak of the intergalactic war. So, that is the review. As always, we go through our usual round of questions, and first up is Lynn, and we're going to look at your thoughts, Lynn, on the storyline and the script, and whether you thought there could have been any improvements to this, or was it one of your favourite episodes? How was this one for you?
It's a good one. It's a good one. I think we've had an extended setup to the start of the series, and we've had the web, which sort of sits on its own there. And Seek, Locate, Destroy, I think, is the first of the rest, and it sets up that kind of action-based view that we have now. It's got all the ingredients for a lot of the new episodes. We've got a plan from Blake to steal a march on the Federation in some way. We've got a new planet or a new power station or both. We've got heroes heroing. We've got character development. We have, I think, we have the first view of our arch villains, Supreme Commander Servalan and Space Commander Travis. I mean, I think we'll come back to them later, right? But I think the storyline moves along. They fit a lot in. Watching it again most recently, I think they really do manage to actually put quite a lot in here. And I think the pace is pretty good. I think we've got some good politicking. We can come back to the director and the directing, but I think the pace of the storyline works for me. I think the whole toing and froing, the twists at the end, that all works. The introduction of our new baddies, the presence, again, let's come back, I think, to the characterization and so on a little bit later. I think that the script starts to really pick up on our character development between our main characters. It really starts to pick that up. People are looking comfortable with those kind of interactions even more so. Yeah, I really like it. I think it really picks up what the blueprint for what some of the better episodes are going to look like.
Okay, great stuff. Yeah, no, great stuff, Dave. I mean, those of you who are tuning into this podcast for the first time, Dave is a newbie to Blake 7, whereas Nick, who's not on tonight, myself, Neil, and Lynn are all big Blake 7 fans. Dave's watching this for the first time, and to be honest, it was us walking along, going out for walks, and me trying to get you in to watch it. You didn't want to watch it. You had an idea of what it was going to be like. Didn't want to watch it, but you're really putting the effort in, Dave. I'm really impressed. The fact you're not just watching these episodes once and giving a review. You're really giving it some serious consideration, and you're watching some of these episodes a couple of times. How many times have you watched this one?
Well, I have to watch them more than once because sometimes I can't believe what I'm watching, and sometimes that's a good way, and sometimes it's in a bad way.
What did you make of this one then?
Well, because I hope I don't get a couple of episodes mixed up here, because I've had to watch a few on block with circumstances. But no, I enjoyed this episode. I thought the storyline was very good. I thought the script was good. There was a lot of character development in it, more so than we had in previous episodes. I thought Villa came into his own a lot more in this, and we saw a little bit of hero, from Villa, a bit of bravery. Flawed by the usual things I always complain about, a lack of thought with some things, silly effects. Isn't this the second time we've seen this plant so far? When they land on the planet and they're in this ICI.
Should have checked. Is it the same one? One moment. Let me consult the Bible while you're talking.
It looks very similar, Lynn. Yeah.
They do. We haven't really got to the quarries yet, but anyway.
I think we've had one quarry, haven't we?
Yes, in Times Square. That's true.
I think so. And a few quarrels, I would imagine.
This is a gasworks, isn't it? Some gasworks, this one.
Yeah, some gasworks.
The previous one was a nuclear power station, so I think they're different. But
yeah, it's difficult when you're giving this summary at the beginning not to slip into the other questions we're going to be asked,
Yeah.
But yeah, the storyline I thought was very good. I did enjoy it the first time I watched it, and I enjoyed it more the second time. It's just a bit of thought could have been put into some of the setups, the gasworks or whatever it is, could have been done better. When we get to special effects, I'll talk about the robot. Totally unnecessary to have. It just stupefies me that somebody would put that thing on there.
We need to talk about the robot. You're right. That deserves a special mention.
I mean, they had garden places that didn't need garden, They were standing around with guns for no apparent reason. Yeah, but you had this robot which completely spoiled it. But no, to keep the question, I enjoyed the storyline. I thought it was very good, and I thought it moved on from the other episodes very well.
Okay, good stuff. That sounds positive. Neil, your views on Seek, Locate, Destroy? We're well into the first series now with this episode.
Well, as Lynn said, we've gone past the beginning and we're now into the middle, and characters are starting to come into their own. Seek, Locate, Destroy itself, I think, if you talk to most fandom, is one of the favourites out there. So it is the start of personalizing the Federation in the shape of Sutherland Travis, and that'll run for a while now as well for Federation episodes. And we kind of get a reminder of what each character is about. It's like a little bit of a recap at the start of the episode about who they are, except probably Jenna, who has got into that habit of doing very little for some reason, which tends to continue for a little while as well. Gan doesn't get to do a lot either, does he? And I don't really understand why the big strong guy leaves Callie to go and plant the mines. That makes no sense to me. So that's a little bit of a bugbear. Why didn't Villa shoot the guard? That's a little bit of a bugbear as well, instead of running away. But I suppose he's not used to shooting or killing anyone just yet. And unfortunately, Callie, the badass freedom fighter that we get in Time Squad, is again the weak link for some reason here, which for me doesn't really sit great. And it takes ages for them to realise she's not there, which is a bit shocking, I think, to be honest.
That is a bit of a shame.
Oh, she's not about. So I don't think that was the strongest bit of writing either, if I'm going to be honest. But the episode itself moves really quickly, and we get a lot in there, has already been said, and we get the mean and moody first personifications of the Federation in Travis and Servalan, and I think they both come onto screen really well right from the off, and it's great to kind of personalize them. We do get some kind of world building, particularly in the world of the Federation. You get a little bit of a understanding of the Federation structure through this, which I think was good as well. We get to see Secretary Rontaine and all that. And I love the way Servalan refers to him as Secretary when he's arguing with her. He says, "You stay in your place, fella. I'm Supreme Commander Servalan. You're Secretary. So be quiet." There's a bit of that going on as well. I thought they were played really well, them fringe Federation characters, to be honest. Business like 1 minute, Servalan is with Burkholm and Rontaine. And then with Travis, she gets a little bit of seductive edge starts to come out a little bit, but she also becomes quite dismissive as well, particularly of is it Rai? Yeah, it is Rai. Yeah. Which she's had a previous thingy with. I think that comes through, obviously. So you get to see a lot of sides of Servalan, even though she's only just turned up straight away, which I think is really interesting and really well done by Jacqueline Pearce as usual. Jen hasn't left the ship since she boarded it, and she's still stuck on the ship. She must be getting a little bit of cabin fever there. But overall, it's a great episode and great twist at the end with Blake turning Travis's ploy on its head on him. So I like that as well. So would I have done anything differently, just apart from the couple of little silly things and the robot, which I guess we'll talk about later?
Yes.
Probably not a lot different. I think it's it's a really good story.
Yep, I'm going to agree with everybody. I thought this was it's a really strong episode. I think it's a great one, I guess, for establishing the characters, as you say, and the goodies and baddies, which is what essentially Series A then becomes. With as you've just mentioned there, Neil, the ultimate twist at the end where Blake and the merry gang of vagabonds gets away, and you've got Travis basically saying, "I'll get you next time, Blake." It just sets the tone for the rest of the series, and that's what makes Series 1 quite exciting, I think. I did cringe once again at certain parts of this episode when I rewatched it. And I've watched the Blu-ray version of this now as well, which I have to say doesn't make the robot look any better. But it's genuine. It's genuinely there's parts of it which I would have changed. I hate that bit with Villa and the Guards. I really, really do. I think it's pathetic. It's definitely one of the worst parts of the episode. And my constant note in these so far has been fight scenes, and maybe it's because, as an actor myself, I've done lots of fight scenes, and I'm very, I know how much hard work goes into them, but there's a complete lack of effort gone into any of these fight scenes. Maybe it just wasn't the thing back in the 70s and 80s to do proper fight scenes until the Sweeney came along, maybe. But I don't know.
Callie knocked out that trooper, and how? What was he knocked out by? A plastic box?
No idea.
I'd love to know. I actually watched it back a couple of times to see how on earth, how he could explain that she'd actually done that. But yeah, I mean, those things do spoil it for me. It really, that's the one thing that spoils it for me. It's a pity because the acting's great, I love the Servalan in this. This is Jacqueline Pearce at her best. I mean, when you think about how she got the part, and how she then just made it her own, and that those opening scenes of her, she's everything, isn't she? She's evil, she's manipulative, she's seductive, she's everything that you would expect her to be, and she just gets better and better. That's the thing with Jacqueline Pearce. I mean, that's one of the best performances in this so far for me, in the series so far, from her, and she was brilliant. And Travis, the late great Stephen Grief as Travis is again brings something special. I do laugh at the eye patch, and of course when you start reading interviews or watch interviews with Stephen, and you hear about his own thoughts about this, abnormality that he had to have put on his face. It's it must have been unbearable to try and act and walk with that on. But overall, great episode this for a storyline. Great episode this for establishing some of the characters. Great stuff for giving some of the characters who maybe haven't really shone, like Dave said, like Villa, an opportunity maybe to shine with a bit more to say. But becoming quite obvious that certain characters are getting left behind, which again, you guys have mentioned, Gan in particular, Jenna stuck on the Liberator, setting the tone really for how things are going to continue with these two characters in particular. So I did like it. So this episode was directed by Vera Lorimer, which was his second, because he did Cygnus Alpha, which we've already reviewed. This was transmitted Monday the 6th, February 1978. But I like his episodes, Lynn. I've got to be honest. He's Mr. Blake 7. He's one of those people you would call Mr. Blake 7, and I love.
Yes.
I think it shines through, and every episode he does, he brings something to the table.
Yeah, I agree, and you've mentioned a couple of in terms of the storyline, but you've mentioned a couple of the things that I think he does really well. That introduction of Servalan, and actually, Dave, when we come to you, it'd be really interested to hear your first impressions of Servalan, because we have the whole set of series of her. We're used to it, so I'm interested to hear that. But I think the setup of that, the white on white office, which I think, and exactly, I think it'd be interesting to see if Nick says this, but I know some of the backdrop, borrows something from Doctor Who. But I think the white on white, how still she is, how he puts together that first scene with Rontaine and Burkle, and the way, as you say, that it's interactive. I think that's, I really like the way he did that. I like the way he introduced Travis. I agree with you on the fight scenes. Those just make me, I haven't done any of those things, but they just don't look right. Steve, actually, which bit with Villa and the guards makes you cringe? Is it the little I'm here to blow something up, or is it the
yes?
Oh, you see, I like that. I think it's so ridiculous. It kind of makes me smile. That's really interesting.
I mean, I just think it. I just
as well.
The reason I don't like it, Lynn, is just because it's because the Federation are mean, and that it almost makes them dense. These guards, these people are quite serious people, and I don't believe for 1 minute that the Federation guards would be tricked by Villa coming to do a magic trick.
Stormtrooper syndrome.
But do you not think? Yeah,
isn't later on in the episode where he says, "Take the gun off the guard," and Villa just takes the gun off the guard.
Yeah,
and, the guard just gives him the gun. I mean, all of the guards,
that's true. That is weird.
Pathetic in this, really, particularly in this episode. I mean, they're just terrible. The guards.
They are there just to be, as you say, either to be knocked down or to look foolish. Maybe that's true, and I think maybe it's the Villa aspect I like, but yeah, I take your point about the guards.
So Villa knows that the guard's about to sound the alarm, which puts the whole thing, up the Khyber. Really, he's carrying a gun, chasing him.
That bit is weird. It's just like
you just shoot him, wouldn't you? He's running after him, going, "Don't sound the alarm, Damn, he sounded the alarm." What? So my only excuse to that is Villa's uncomfortable with killing at the moment. You know.
Yeah, and there's that discussion. It's a long time before you see him shoot anyone, I think.
Yeah. But everybody knows, I mean, the Federation, again, this is only an assumption on my behalf, but one would imagine that maybe Villa's on a list with Blake, Jenna, Gan, everybody else who's escaped and who's, nicked the Liberator and who are flying around space. And the fact that, as we see later on in the episode, Servalan having this meeting where, the president's not happy that, Blake and his merry band of men are flying around. Everybody knows. I mean, it's a modern day Crime Stoppers, isn't it? There's going to be, everyone's going to know who they are. Yet the Federation, bloke doesn't know who he is. But that's my assumption, Lynn.
That's true. I don't think they have photographs. I think it comes up a few other times. I think, they know of, most people, I guess, have seen Blake and his trial video, if you like.
Did they not read the Radio Times? Because it would have been in the Radio Times, wouldn't it?
Well, it's in my notes here. I've never liked the black and white photos of Blake. They're like porn images.
Blake had a
Someone
following.
had to mention it. Yeah,
Blake
they
had
are.
a political past, didn't he? And had a following, a band of followers. So he'd be politically quite well known to certain types of people, I would have thought.
They would have had headshots. There would have been prison mug shots,
Yeah.
I mean, when we get to a later episode, which we'll not go into.
Don't spoil it for us.
We're going to a later episode, and there's a female prisoner that is held in a particular place. There is a mugshot. They go to the file, and there is a mugshot of these people. Yeah, they say such and such. Which so for me, they would have had the same of Blake. Yeah, Blake's photos in this are the photographs of him being tortured, which do look rather weird. And the other one,
all the time.
yeah, he's like going.
Yeah,
I just don't like it. That's it. Yeah. So I just, yeah. I mean, it's personal choice, but I just think it spoils a little bit. And the fact that I knew it was coming made it even worse. And I was like, oh no, here we go. We're probably like we all are with the robot, to be fair, which we've skipped around for 22 minutes, but I have got some wonderful. There he is.
Come on, there was publicity. So Dave, you wouldn't see. There was a whole heap of publicity ahead of all of this, and it featured the robot. Terry was very pleased, I think, with having put the robot together. It featured in all the publicity shots and the publicity shoots. Oh, seriously, it did.
And people still
Steve will show you the footage that they've got in the Series A production diary. This was touted as a big thing. Seriously.
So we're going to do merchandise.
Fritz Lang had a better robot in 1929. There's no real excuse for that monstrosity. Don't please say budget, Steve.
You just said budget.
It's just a lack of imagination.
No, it isn't. But because they spent lots on it, I think, and
they went for that apparently.
Well, they must have spent all the money on the batteries.
More, Dave. You get to see it once more, and we never talk of it again.
But as I often say, unnecessary. It's drawn attention to itself, and it wasn't needed when you had all of these guards. Why do you need a robot going around outside? Why do you need anything? When you've got such a fantastic top security fence, which is about 3 foot. I mean, I've got notes and notes on, top security. Well, if it says top security, we can't climb over that. You could have stepped over the bloody fence. It's just hilarious, Never mind. I digress.
So Dave, your thoughts then on the director, the direction? Was anything you think Laura could have done any better?
Well, as I've said since episode 1, and you've already mentioned, anything involving a fight scene is just horrendously done. I don't really know why. In the late 70s, it should be as bad as that, but that's always pretty bad. And this is the choices that have made up production value choices and sets and things like that. But the director I thought was fine. Now, you said he'd done a previous episode we've already watched.
Cygnus Alpha, yeah.
Brian Blessed.
Do you have the scores that we give to that? We give to that, or?
I think you gave that a 7, if I remember right.
I thought I quite liked this. So this guy must be all right, because I quite like this one as well.
Oh, well, that's good. Good.
So
Neil,
we'll
anything?
tell him we can continue with a few more episodes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he does creep up again. Neil, what was your thoughts on Via Lorimer's direction in this?
Well, Via Lorma is Blake Seven royalty, isn't he? So
Yeah.
he's directed 12 episodes in total. You know, and started with Cygnus Alpha, and then a couple more, one more in this season, and then he carries on as well into the Series B, Series C, and produces Series D. So you know, he's up there with Blake Seven Royals. So I think he knows it. He knows Blake Seven. He knows what it's trying to be, and I think that comes through. Fight scenes dreadful. Again, you know, like I've already touched on, how that trooper went down when she was having a fight with Kali. I really don't know. But I did like the tension on the detonators countdown, and it was a little bit cheesy, but I thought that worked.
Yeah.
And Kali getting stranded is, if not a little bit unbelievable, but nicely done. And with this, particularly with her just being inches away from picking up the bracelet, you know, that kind of showed that, oh look, she's only just in trouble here, but she still is. She can't get her hands on that bracelet there. So I thought that was nicely done. The scenes in Servalan's office, as we've already touched on, were nicely done. And the scenes between Servalan and Travis straight away, really well done as well. And I also liked the retelling of the Travis and Blake's backstory as well. So I thought that worked as well, and switching between Travis and Blake, didn't they, retelling their bit of the story? I thought that was good as well. So overall, you know, he wouldn't have chosen the location, I doubt. You know, a gas station that looks very much like a gas station with 1970s doors and a fence with top security written on it. I'm not sure he would have chosen that, but that's production values. Yeah, there's that as well. That's ominous. God knows what that was. Could have been laser throwing. We never know. And the robot, you know, I mean, it's the slowest thing that's there. I mean, who's not running away from that robot? You know what I mean? They're the black spots, but overall, you know, the thing moves at pace, and it's well done.
Yeah, it was the weapon, I think, as well, that the robot had, which was even worse. The fact that it was so slow, it was on wheels, and then this, like, honestly, it's so horrendous. And they spent a fortune on it, like you say, and dear me, how, crazy when you look back at that. To think that they were actually going to make that, they thought it would be like the Daleks was, I think.
That was it, wasn't it?
That was
and you know that was going to be, they were going to be able to mass produce it. Dear me, how you imagine?
So Terry's idea of robots clearly have a weakness, and it stays.
Okay, we move on, as we do, to thoughts on the best and worst special effects and the costumes. We tie these two together. So, what's your views, Lynn, on the special effects and costumes for this episode?
Special effects. Okay, we've talked about the robot. I think it has to be top of the rubbish special effects list. We've talked about that, right? Special effects otherwise, I mean, we've got some explosives. We have a space station. So space headquarters, I thought, not bad, actually. Not bad at all. And special effects. I guess the office was more dressing than anything else. But I think in terms of models, I liked the space headquarters. I didn't like the robot. We blew some stuff up in a very average way. But I didn't think there was that much else in special effects as such. As far as costumes were concerned, we've got that first view of Servalan in white, which this series certainly, you know, that is her thing, right? That white, feminine, but in control kind of outfit, and then Travis and all the leather. So you know that they contrast. Yeah, and the eye patch. Does that count as a special effect? That or the handgun, literally handgun.
The
handgun. But and Stephen Greif must have creaked as he walked across the set for that one. But so I like those two costumes, and the black and white kind of contrast again isn't lost on anyone, right? I think Jenna's petal costume will probably divide the crowd. It's another one again. She's stuck on the Liberator in a whole sort of, I don't know, Midsummer Night's Dream type of thing going on. I don't like seeing her in that particularly. You know, she's a smuggler and a pilot, and no, just don't.
I agree. She should definitely take that one off. Yeah.
Steady now, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. The other thing, and just to mention the Blu-rays, actually, because they've lifted all of the color, haven't they, in the remastering of everything. And there's been a lot talked about the space anoraks, the color-coded sort of anoraks that the crew goes down in. And I always thought that Avon's was grey and black for ages watching the videos. It's not, it's navy. And that was completely lost. It's a really small thing, but when you something in your head. And all of that stuff was just completely lost. So I think it's nice we've at least picked up that. It's a small thing, but there it is.
Okay, good stuff. Dave, your views?
Oh, special effects and costumes.
Yes.
Oh, well, the commander in white. I didn't think what she was wearing was appropriate for somebody of her position, really. I expected something a little bit more military. She looked like...
That was the original idea, apparently.
It was. Actually, they were going to put her in fatigues or army fatigues or something similar to start with.
Yeah. Well, they should have done that. I mean, she looked like she'd just come off the stage doing Swan Lake to me.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, exactly.
But otherwise, she was excellent, as you said, Lynn. That scene where Ray comes in made me laugh at the beginning because she's sitting there and he knocks on the door. And she says, "Come in." And then the door, shh. And I said, what's he knocking on the door for? They've got a real problem so far in Blake 7 with doors. They can't make their mind up what the doors are supposed to be. With handles and not with handles. Do you knock on them? Do they open automatically? They've got a real issue with it. I hope it gets sorted out as we move along.
You can live in hope, Dave, but
I've always been an optimist. Another thing I like to mention that they can't seem to get right in this episode is one of the guys in white has got a little metal brick, which when he goes, Commander, blah, 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 and then he goes, thank you. And I'm thinking, pick something and stick with it. We've had talking into bolts. We've had running across the ship to pass each other messages, talking into nothing. We've had little Walkman players where they've done that and they've done that. They've never heard of there. We've had that. Yeah. Actually, that's not bad, but yeah, we've had that. It's just bizarre. Now he's got this little voice, this little copper brick thing that he puts to his throat. And I'm quite sure we probably won't see it again. So they must be just picking props up here and there, I don't know. I've got loads of niggly things down for special effects and silly things. When Gan is told to put the mines, the bombs, they'll stick to anything that's metal. And he runs through the corridor. There's entirely plasterboard, but it's got two metal squares stuck midway for no apparent reason. They're not buttons, they're not switches. They're just two little metal squares on the wall. They just place your bomb here. Yeah. If I sign on saying place your bum here, it would have been, hilarious. So there was that. There was the fact that he said, one bomb will be enough, and Blake says, no, use two bombs. We want to absolutely destroy everything. And then after the explosion, nothing's destroyed. The whole place seems to be a storage place for plastic containers. I don't know what's supposed to be in this plant, but it's just plastic containers. I could go on forever. Villa's little ice box, his coolant box, the red box he carries around. When he opens it, it's full of drain pipes. I just don't know what that's about neither. Travis. It was interesting that Lynn thought Travis's entrance was very, very impressive. I'm not going to read too much into that, Lynn, But the first thing you see of Travis is his backside in leather. The camera's at backside level, and you see this leather-clad arse coming across the screen. I'm thinking, what on earth's this, His eye patch, you can see his eyelid moving underneath it when he talks. I think that's enough for me, isn't it? And apart from every time they try to fix something on the ship, it looks like an episode from Blue Peter. They just have these metal sticks and they're prodding a little, gun pulling the decoder out. Big lad like him, it takes him, look at it. It takes him about 20 minutes to pull that out. Lots of daft little irritating things, but actually I'm finding these things quite amusing now and quite entertaining. So
Good.
I suppose if we get an episode where everything's done professional, I'll be quite bored.
Yeah, there's the robot again. I'm not going to get sick of showing the robot today, I don't think.
What about
Neil?
you, Neil?
All the periphery props, like David mentioned, are up to their usual standard. Yippee, we only get one animated Liberator flying through space. My personal bugbear. There's only one of the entire episode, so I'm happy with that. There's only one.
37 planets.
Yeah. So I did like Space Command. I thought that worked pretty well. And I thought the best effect for me, and I mean, I do like model shots, unfortunately, and I love the Liberator. It ain't him, no. The best effect is the Liberator model shot when it changes course for Kentaro and sets off. Maybe not up to modern day standards, but I just love a bit of Liberator turning around.
It's pretty good.
Zooming up. Worst special effects. There was an error on there when Gan, Avon, and Callie teleported down. They teleport down, the old wobblies. And then they land wobbly as well, not the white lines. So they got that wrong for this episode. So I did pick that up. So that was a mistake. The apparatus for the deciphering machine on board the Liberator was a shared set of headphones again. What the hell?
That is
At
it's
least
awful.
they're using headphones now,
Yeah, and then the mumbo jumbo when she's on the scanner in front of her, blocks of white, whatever it was. Who's reading that? What's that meant to say? Yeah, what's that?
It makes sense to me, Neil.
Yeah, sure. Dit. I don't know.
It says 19 minutes left.
But the worst effect is the researchers in the base for me. Obviously, sat in front of a green screen of a backdrop of some kind, of some research lab. It just looks
they
dreadful.
are, aren't they?
Yeah, it looks terrible. So, and there's a purple outline around and the desk there sat there with some computers on. Just obviously office desks of some kind. That just all looks crap. So that's the worst effect for me in all of this. Costumes. Cut it short. Jenna's is awful. And best outfit goes to Servalan.
Yeah, definitely. Servalan steals the show, doesn't she? Even though Dave felt it was inappropriate for our position, but I would agree with that. I can't really add a great deal more to what you've said, all of you. I think you've pretty much nailed it. I think they're all running themes. The door thing, and again, I'm starting to pick that up because of Dave's observations in the first few episodes. And yeah, there's more doors to come. I'm afraid it's not an open and shut case yet, Dave. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Boom, exactly. Yeah, but I genuinely think that again, it's just. The fact that they've now done it on Blu-ray is great because to be able to go and watch the Blu-ray version now, especially what you keep going on about the ship, Neil. I think it's a lot better. I think the color upgrade and the fact that they have changed a few things, and the new ship, for instance, in the way that they've changed the space station and things like that, it looks really good. It does give it a better feel, the Blu-ray. It definitely does. I think if they've made some great alterations. But yeah, this is definitely the worst thing in this episode, the robot. There's no doubt about it. And the special effect of it firing something, which just takes an age. I mean, the fact that it takes an age to move is one thing, but then this. You've got enough time to run away from it, and nobody could ever be threatened by that. It's just ridiculous. So that is the worst one for me. Best costumes. I love the landing costumes when they went to blow the place up. I did like what the lads were wearing. In fact, I thought that would have been a snazzy little line. I would have bought one of those.
You've got one of those, Steve, haven't you?
Well, I've got something similar. Yeah, it's
You were
quite
one of
similar.
those the other week, weren't you, with
It's
that,
quite similar to my NUFC Matters coat. But I
weren't
quite
you
like
wearing
that.
with your short skirt the other week when we went for a walk?
I was, yeah.
Very
Thanks,
festive.
Dave. But yeah, joking aside, Dave. Yeah, that is a really, it's a nice costume. That I thought it was one of Blake Seven's better ones. But again, one imagines that they've got this huge wardrobe in the Liberator, which we never see, of course, of all these clothes, which all fit perfectly. So yeah, strange stuff. But good. Okay, moving on to the best actor and the worst actor in this episode, Lynn.
So best, I'm taking Jacqueline Pearce for this one. The entrance, the impact. That's where I'm going. I mean, I think, as you say, Villa is developing well as a character. That will continue, but I think for an entrance, if you like, for that opening piece, then it's Jacqueline Pearce. With I think as a sidebar again on that interaction with Secretary Rontaine and Senator Burkle. I just think that piece works really well. So I'm picking her for that. Worst, was there someone inside the robot? No, that's not fair. For all that it was kind of fun, I didn't get on with the character of Ray. For me, it just didn't. Maybe it was just that I just didn't like it as a particularly as a scene. So I didn't think there was anyone dreadful. The guards were supposed to be pushovers, clearly. So I'm not going to blame the acting, if you like, for that. But for me, Ray just did. Ian Oliver as Ray just didn't really work for me. So that's
okay,
mine.
Dave.
I picked Villa this time as the best actor, and I'll just mention that what's Travis? Travis had such a big build up to his entrance. I expected something a bit more menacing, than he was. Nothing wrong with his acting, but I just thought the build up was perhaps too much. In terms of the worst acting, I'm going to disagree with Lynn. I am going to blame the guards because I think they were just atrocious. And anybody in a fight scene, so that's my worst actor. Anybody in a fight scene and the guards. But I think I'll give it to Villa for best actor in this particular episode.
Okay, Neil.
Yeah, I got nice to see Michael Keaton start to find his feet as Villa. Burkle and Rontaine are good in this. They're really typical bureaucratic weasels, and they come across exactly as that. All the crew was strong, to be fair. Interestingly, John Bryan, who plays Burkle as Shrinker, isn't he, later on in a future episode?
Yes.
So it's interesting to see that, see that and see him play two different characters that I know. Is he actually Shrinker? Is Burkle Shrinker? Was it just a code name? Who knows? Anyway. Peter Miles is good as Rontaine, I think. Works really well. Jacqueline Pearce underplaying at the moment as Servalan, and I really like that. That underplayed depiction I particularly like. Greif comes in and does Travis. Whatever you think of it, I think he's meant to be a bit over the top. Not quite as over top as he gets in future, but I think he does it well. And I loved his delivery of the line "depend on it." That was quite menacing. And he's instantly convincing. But for me, it's Pierce just for this episode. And the worst, all I got written here is Ray is totally unconvincing. So that's what I've got written here. He's just like a scared puppy, really, when he's talking to Servalan. It's hard to believe that they'd have any kind of relationship, them two, to be honest. Absolutely no chance. So that's it.
He's no Jarvik, is he?
No. So that's what's a really
that's truly a come, Dave. Yeah,
contrast.
I can't wait for that. I really can't. It's probably a couple of years away, but I can't wait. Anyway.
Yes, I'm exactly the same as you, Neil. I went for Ray and Ian Oliver. Sadly, it wasn't a convincing thing. I mean, I found that a really bizarre thing to establish Servalan's character as well. The fact that she was, having a romance. Why set that out as an opening gambit for somebody who's quite clearly, got other motives? But yeah, it was an unbelievable one. Anyway, I could have imagined her having some kind of fling with Travis at some point. That would have been a bit more believable. But yeah, I thought Jacqueline Pearce probably in this episode was great. The combination, the scenes with, her and Stephen Grief just establishing that relationship were what swung it for me. But like you say as well, Neil, I thought that the Burkall, the Burkall scene and Runtain scene were good as well. It was believable, and she really gets the character from the off, and it's when you think about those times, you think about the 70s and where we were, with I guess female actors getting lead parts in things, for her to come in and establish herself so quickly in that role, making it her own. And yeah, I mean, there was talk of her potentially only coming in for a few episodes and, see how it works. And, the fact that
Dave touched on, she should have been in military, and that was the original idea, but it was Jacqueline didn't want that. And I think that, Ray and that relationship thing, what Jacqueline said, if you read up a little bit what she said about it, was that she wanted her to be feminine as well as have that authority as well. So I think that might have been a reason that they threw that in. She does have these relationships with guys as well as being this obviously in charge figure. So
very inappropriate in the workplace, though, isn't it?
Hello, the 70s. Yes.
Yeah.
Particularly the 70s, yeah.
Puts a complaint in at some point, does he?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, nowadays he certainly would. But it's I just, and again I agree with Dave. The gods, the gods are terrible, but they're not actors. They're the supporting artists in this, so not even credited in this, and probably rightly so. But yeah, and if there was an actor in this, he deserves a BAFTA for having to go through that. Yeah, honestly, but I would imagine that was remote controlled. We'll have to double check our Cult Edge books to find that out, because I'm sure the series guide would probably be able to tell us that. Okay, coming towards the end of the program, best line of the show. We obviously picked apart the script and pick the best lines in it. I've got to be honest, this wasn't one where one jumped out massively for me. I've got a couple, but I think by the time it's my turn at the end, you'll have already mentioned it, Lynn. So I'm going to go with you first.
So I'm going to avoid any of Villa's for now, just because I know we've got so many to come in subsequent ones. So the first one, I suppose it depends how you think about it. Which there was a certain amount of monologuing in this one, but Travis's last monologue and his "I am your death, Blake" was a kind of slightly overblown but notable one. But I'm sorry, you can't. Hats off to him for delivering the following line with a reasonably straight face, which was, "I'm always grateful for a rough analogy." I mean, he went straight for that one. I have to pick that one out. I don't know where that comes from. It's not particularly Blake Seven, but it makes me laugh every time I watch it.
Brilliant. Dave?
Well, there was a few, wasn't there, with Travis, where he said to the guy, talk me through the scenario, and the guy says, from the beginning, he says, well, where else? That was quite funny. But I like the bit with Villa and Avon, where they're building a bit of a comedic relationship up. I don't know whether that continues, where Villa says, I knew she was alive, and Avon says, no, you didn't. He went, no, I didn't. That was quite good.
I'll go and tell Gan. Yes.
Yeah, I'll go and tell Gan, that's right, yeah. But one of the funniest things I've noticed in this episode, they've started using terminology when they're transported somewhere. They'll just say, put them down, or put me down, So I found that quite strange. So that was one of my strange ones. But probably the Villa and Avon little comedy sketch I liked.
Okay, so only Neil can take the one that I've picked. Go on, Neil.
I think I know.
I might do. I don't think I've got a few written down, but I'm just gonna go with one or two of them. I did like Avon's sarcastic. That's the trouble with the heroics; they seldom run to schedule.
That's one of mine.
Sorry. So I like that. Again, it's showing the kind of thinking that Avon has for Blake. Bit of disdain there. Then we had all the, you don't matter enough to kill Travis. Blake's line at the end. I quite like that one. But my favourite line of the whole show is when Villa's with Gam and he rips out the ciphering thing. You were supposed to disconnect that thing, not get Gam to tear it loose with his teeth. I found that quite amusing. A little bit unbelievable because, you could easily rip that out anyway. But yeah, Gam does a bit of grunting as usual and rips it out. So that was my favourite line.
Yours is safe, isn't it, Steve?
Well, I'm going to have to go with the Villa one now. Yeah, I often pick an Avon line, so I'll go with the Villa one, which is that little thing at the start of the episode, where luckily for them, the robot's gone, and they basically Blake says, "How did he get in there?" And Villa goes, "There isn't a lock I can't open if I'm scared enough." And Blake goes, "Are you scared enough for that one?" And he goes, "What do you think?" Great little line, great little interchange, and again, that's Villa's character coming out, and starting to establish his character. He's a funny character, and bit of a coward, but bit of a comedian, and very dry-witted. So I think that's great line. But all picked out something really relevant and good there. So it's time to give the episode a mark out of 10. Go off for it, Dave. Yes, I can see you.
I was just going to say the other one that if you turn the ship around, Blake, you will kill all of us. And I was shouting, "Turn it round! Turn it round!" I've got 4 more years of this, approximately.
Well, we're pre-recording an episode after this, Dave, so it might not take 4 years, which was Neil's prediction, and we'll have got Neil's video. We have got Neil's video to come. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Neil's video now because he probably will give his marks out of 10. So here's what Neil thought of Seek, Locate, Destroy.
Steve, I'll be in good old snowy Finland when you're recording this. So I'm sending you this in advance. Seek, Locate, Destroy, brilliant. Loved it. First time we get Travis and Servalan teaming up against Blake and the gang. It's sort of a Holmes and Moriarty type affair. So that's really cool. The way they introduced Travis, not showing him for the first few moments as he walks into that room, really good. The meeting prior to that with Ron Taine and the other chap with Servalan was really good. Ron Taine, played by Peter Miles, old Nida from Genesis of the Daleks, is very threatening and really cool character. I really liked it. I haven't got too much time to record this because I think I'm running out of battery on my phone. But in terms of the usual stuff, directorially, I thought they could have redone the fight scene with Jan Chappell where she's beating up the Federation trooper after she gets left behind. That looks a little bit staged and obvious. And they're using the usual Federation corridor for the Kentaro base, which I've already seen a couple of times in other episodes. Best actor, I thought, went to Jacqueline Pearce. Worst actor, I'd have to unfortunately give to Jan Chappell for that fight scene. Best effect was seeing the Space Command headquarters for the very first time. I loved that. Worst effect was the security robot being pulled along on Kentaro by a rope, which is visible. Certainly on the Blu-ray it's visible. Best line goes to Travis for yes. Well, I'm always grateful for a rough analogy. I thought that was really funny. Best costume, Travis, hands down, no problem. Worst costume, Jacqueline Pearce, but she wears worse as time will go on. And my rating for this one would be 9 out of 10. I thought it was a brilliant episode. Okay, cheers, guys.
Thank you for that, Neil, and a special mention for the robot.
Bit of a surprise there on the costumes, though. I
could barely hear what Neil was saying there. Actually, the volume was very low for some reason.
You mean Nick? I'm Neil.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, Nick. Yeah, sorry. Well, of course, Neil. I'm only one of the others, so.
I can't reprogram Facebook, Dave, unfortunately.
I know you can't.
So, Lynn, 9 out of 10 from Nick.
How many?
You gave it a
I said
9. out of-
9, yeah.
Mm. What about
9 as well, Steve? 9.
Yes, 9 for you.
Actually, I might come back. Yep, 9 for me.
Yeah, I'm giving
Loved
it a 9 as well, Dave. What about you?
Me, I'm giving it a very strong 7.
Strong 7. Okay,
That's good for me.
that is very good for you. And Neil, what about you, mate?
It's a 9 for me.
A
You're
9
all
from you.
sheep.
I have it written down.
It's on my crib sheet by 9.
Yeah, I've got 9 bits of paper with the numbers written on as well.
Great stuff. Thank you for everyone watching. We've had 101 people watching live tonight. So thank you for your time. Get yourself onto the Word on Blake 7, onto our YouTube account and subscribe. We have got a few episodes up there. And if you listen to it as a podcast, you can get it on Spotify and all other podcast providers. We'll be back next episode, which will be a pre-recorded show with Mission to Destiny. But for now, thanks and good night from me, Neil, Dave, and from Lynn.
The word, switch the bracelet on the word, the word, the word, the word, switch the bracelet on the word, the word, the word, the word, switch the bracelet on the word, the word.